This is Crime Cruise, Love Boat Exposed. Saturday on the Love Boat. The podcast that hunts down and tears apart shenanigans on this classic TV show.
I see an awful lot of bodies who really have nothing to be ashamed of.
When laws, morals, and behavior go rogue.
She's a student of marine biology, and I know a lot of Marines who like to study her biology.
We are there.
Saturday on the Love Boat, Julie's game to join an all-male club, but she's shocked at the things they ask her to do.
Now, from Studio 109, welcome aboard.
I think it's time you and I got to know each other better.
A man gets very lonely at sea.
Yes, I can imagine.
Welcome to Crime Cruise, Love Boat Exposed, High Seas, Low Morals. I'm your host, Rob. I'm here with co-host Charlotte, and in the back in the control room is producer Caleb. We are here to dissect all 250 episodes of The Love Boat, which started airing in 1977.
Wait, we're doing 250 of these?
Not right now,
Okay.
but as we go on,
I was like, wait,
this will be the
what
first
did I
one.
sign up for?
This will be the very first episode. You're right. I mean, that's a daunting thing to hear.
No, it's just, that's a lot of time on a ship.
It's a lot of,
250
yeah.
episodes,
you
yeah.
definitely get your sea
All
legs.
right. Well, let's get through episode 1 first, and we'll talk
Yes.
about like the next one.
Yes, and just a
Right.
couple of notes. We're going to look at every one of these episodes through the lens of modern times, meaning that we're going to see moral issues happen almost constantly. We're at some points going to see laws broken. We're going to really take a deep dive in the Love Boat. Any thoughts before we start this journey?
For me, like, I did not necessarily like grow up watching this show. So watching it now, the scenes that I'm seeing, it is shocking that like it was even okay to air back then. It's so different to me to just watch how it plays out on TV. It just reminds me of how far we've come, but have we really?
In a lot of ways, no, we really haven't. Okay, for me and television, I was a child of the 70s. It was Saturday night at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. There were shows like Welcome Back, Kotter and Good Times. Then at 9 o'clock, the royalty of television, The Love Boat. And at 10, it was Fantasy Island. So it was a night of Aaron Spelling television from 9 o'clock to 11, and I loved it.
What would be a show that you actually would say it would be your equivalent of The Love Boat when you were growing up?
My friends and I would always gather to watch like Friends. That was sort of like our big thing. I watched Fraggle Rock and Family Ties and Growing Pains and Facts of Life. It was all of those shows for me.
Right. Well, I remember Facts of Life very well.
How could you not? I mean, come on. Facts of Life was... Maybe that should be next season. Just kidding, everybody.
I had a poster of Mrs. Garrett.
No way.
On my bed for
Stop.
3 years, in fact. No, not really. But it would be weird if I did. So back to Love Boat. Again, this is the first episode, season 1 of The Love Boat, 1977. We're going to see perhaps the most iconic of 1970s actors on this particular show, and that is Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times.
Yes.
You're going to see, well, I'm not going to say much more. Why don't we just see what unwinds, and then we'll comment on it.
Are you a passenger on the ship?
No, but I'm looking for one. Jenny O'Brien.
Well, I'm sorry, sir. No more visitors. We're just about to sail.
Yeah, but I gotta see her just for a minute.
Well, hey, fella. I'd like to help you out, but rules are rules.
Hey, I'm sure a man of your stature can do something, Captain. Do a little something to help me in this predicament.
Captain.
Aye.
Okay, but just for a minute.
Just for a minute.
Right. A114.
A114. Thank you very much, Skipper. Aye, aye.
Did I just see what I thought I saw?
I mean, if I saw what I saw, which was a dude that's in charge of a ship give another man who jumped past security, because there's no security on the Love Boat. I want everyone to know you literally can walk onto the boat at any point, at any time, without anyone asking you if you're supposed to be there. So not only does J.J. Walker's character get onto the ship, but he has a T-shirt on that says "Hired Killer," and we have no idea.
Yes.
What is he there to do? We know that he's currently, our first clip of him at the beginning of the episode is him chasing some woman who was trying to get away from him. And now her room number has just been given to J.J. Walker, Hired Killer, by some dude on a cruise ship.
Well, yes, I don't even have a whole lot more. Well, what could be really added to that? Looking at this today, you're seeing men, wink, wink, working in conjunction with each other and setting up a potential
Yeah.
Well, let's just say a potential assault. Who knows? But with that said, let's go ahead and roll the next clip.
You just want to get away from it all? Uh-huh. I don't think I'm going to be a real fun cabin mate. Oh, well, that's okay, just as long as you're willing to take a little stroll around the deck, in case I happen to be entertaining a gentleman friend. Oh, sure, no problem. That's good. I'll do the same for you.
Shazam!
Hey! Wait a second, we were just getting the rules straight. I told you I didn't want to see you in.
Didn't want to see him.
I told you I didn't want to see you anymore.
Well, there we saw the end result of Gopher giving the character played by Jimmy Walker the keys literally to...
Basically, who knows?
Well, it didn't go that far, but let's face it. You just give the room number to a stranger, a guy you don't know, to a single woman, and there you have it. She is attacked, and she seems to be okay with it. I'm not sure.
I don't think they would even tell us if she wasn't.
No, they wouldn't. And before moving on to some of the next clips, that was Suzanne Summers, of course, young Suzanne Summers in 1977, the same year that her true first starring television role happened, and that was in, of course, Three's Company, which was also started in 1977. So what we seem to have here is a little synergy at ABC, pulling people, which was a big thing they would do from their very network, and plugging them into this for that cross-promotion. And also on these shows, you see a lot of old actors as well. I think maybe.
To sort of like come back and do like their little like guest starring role, just sort of pop up here and
yeah, I mean, we're not going to say the name of every single actor, but in fairness, since we have two 1970s television icons in this scene, Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times and Suzanne Summers from Three's Company, we would be remiss if we didn't mention Brenda Sykes playing the role of Ginny O'Brien, the woman that was kissed
by a hired killer.
By a gentleman that has a shirt that says hired killer. So really the very first scene of the very first episode of The Love Boat, all this is going down. So you know we have quite a treacherous journey ahead of us as we dissect all these episodes. So any further thoughts before we go on to the next clip, Charlotte?
No, I have to admit, I really enjoyed this show more than I thought I would. So I'm excited to see what else we have pulled.
You had heard of The Love Boat?
Of course, everyone's heard of The Love Boat.
Right.
I mean, everybody even knows like the first three chords of the song, you know, the Love Boat.
Jack Jones. And written by?
Oh, gosh.
Paul Williams.
Okay, Paul Williams. Thank you. I was going to have to like,
who you told me the other day when we were just having a minimal discussion, because we don't really go deep into these things until we're sitting here and we really let the conversation flow. Paul Williams himself, somewhat of a television personality in the 70s, and he wrote another iconic song.
The Rainbow Connection, sung by Kermit.
Right. So we have some DNA from the Muppets, of course, somehow involved in The Love Boat. This next clip is a short one, and I'm going to show it really for two reasons. Normally, we won't dissect or put this type of a scene under a microscope as we go on with our show here. But what we have here is Julie, played by Lauren Tews, as your cruise director, and Gavin MacLeod playing Captain Merrill Steubing. You'll see a scene where we have an employer interacting with an employee. And I'm not going to say anything more. Let's just let it roll.
Miss McCoy, I'll have you keel-hauled. Now, what is your problem?
Well, I invited Mr. and Mrs. Skogstad to have dinner with you tonight at your table, and...
Don't tell me. Mrs. Skogstad said that she would be delighted to dine at the captain's table if I eat someplace else.
Well, this scene also serves as sort of a segue to the next scene, but...
Because first of all, Rob, keelhole sounds terrible. Like, why would you tell? What is it? I know you know.
So, well, this was actually from the History Channel's website.
So you know it's true.
I know it's true for sure. There are also ancient aliens, and I can tell you that because I did see that there as well. All right.
Oh, yeah. I'm 100% a fan.
So there were a lot of ways to torture and punish people on ships back in the olden days. We all know walking the plank, which basically equals death. But they would also, gosh, I forgot what it's called. They'd put people up in the perch in the very top of the ship's masts.
Mastheading.
mastheading. Thank you. I actually forgot that. There's flogging, caning.
Yeah, we know those. Those are the fun old-timey ones.
Yeah, and those happen on the ground, too.
Yeah, they
so
do.
They're
They're not just sea experiences.
No.
But keel hauling is a total sea experience.
Yes, keel hauling, from a Dutch word.
Meaning, ouch.
So what they would do is throw someone overboard. They would have a rope attached to them, and they would pull them under the hull of the boat and right through to the other side and pull them back onto the boat. Many times they would be dead, sometimes just massively hurt. Sometimes they were lucky. They just have a lesson that they've learned.
I cannot even imagine any of my bosses saying they were going to like drop kick me, which is like basically the equivalent
Good point.
of what he is saying to this girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go curb you. I'm going to go curb you if you don't print out this document. I mean, what the actual F?
Right. And I mean, look, we'll give them the allowance of it's a sitcom of sorts. It's a romantic comedy drama, I think, is how they... But nonetheless...
It simply just sets up the perpetuity of violence towards women for the remainder.
It really does. We're going to see some really bad sides.
It's like grooming almost. We're almost being groomed in the first episode to just take all of this as totally okay
I thought you were
as
making
viewers.
a joke because Meryl Stubing's bald and like he was grooming. He would be grooming his employee.
That would have been clever.
It wasn't clever, but equally weird and probably illegal. Some form of a workplace harassment. So we saw that scene where the captain knows he's going to go to the captain's table with people he doesn't necessarily like.
Exactly.
Now, I want you to see what happens in this scene. Basically, the tables will be turned on our happy boss that likes to abuse people. And here we go.
Ladies, gentlemen, Stacy, Meryl, Mr. Skogstad, it's a pleasure to welcome you aboard. I'm speaking for my entire crew. I got your joke message.
I was serious.
I am the captain. This is the captain's table. The captain sits at the captain's table.
It's not a question of title, Bozo. It's a question of who has the muscle. Aubrey has the muscle, and I'm with Aubrey.
I see. I wish you wouldn't call me Bozo.
Lord, I hate a sweaty forehead on a bald man.
Okay, well, he's no longer the abuser here, is he?
No, it's probably a good thing they got divorced.
So, do you know who that woman was?
You told me.
Yes, another 70s sitcom, probably went into the 80s as well. Bonnie Franklin from One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time, yes.
And her daughters in that show are Valerie Bertinelli and Mackenzie Phillips.
Oh, yeah, and I think Mackenzie Phillips has some stories about her.
She has stories we don't want to hear.
Right, yeah.
I mean, maybe we do. Well, the podcast at some point, its own form of high crimes and moral ineptitudes or whatever.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yes. So he was abused, and that's just sort of a moral thing. There's no law that would be really, I think, broken there.
No.
But damn, he was embarrassed. And as she said, I think it really sums it up. I really love seeing or hate seeing a bald man sweat.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
and he's the only bald man at the table.
He is, so it clearly means him. So we're going to get off the topic of Captain Meryl Stubing and move on to kind of an entirely new, questionable situation. And without saying anything more, let me roll this short clip.
Can you make it? I think so. Here, let me help you. Thanks. You don't think about too much jewelry, do you? No. Besides, if you ever get tired of it, you can melt it all down and make yourself a car.
And there Suzanne Summers struts off. I'll mention that Jenny O'Brien is African American.
This clip is when Suzanne Summers' character is giving all of her belongings to Carrie.
Yeah.
And then just walks off, leaving her character to carry all of her belongings. It's a very... It wouldn't be allowed today. Let's just say this would be very frowned upon. I think they're literally grooming you to like be able to accept all these crazy things they're going to start throwing you like the next episodes.
Right. I mean, I'll buy that. But, Brenda Sykes, by the way, we mentioned was the woman who was given many pieces of souvenirs and clothing to
And
carry.
can you melt down silver bracelets and build a car? I don't even think that's possible.
I don't think so. And the way the scene ended, Suzanne Summers strutting off. Like,
Oh, yeah. Just totally struts off like, thank you for carrying my bags. Ching, ching, ching.
I thought they were friends. I thought they established a better relationship than what we just saw.
No, because there's...
No.
No, they still want you to see where the boundaries are, right? They still want places to be had.
They do. I'll mention again the put upon person in that scene, Ginny O'Brien character, just like how we mentioned Jimmy J.J. Walker has this long listing of jobs they've done in television and film. So does she. And her last appearance in any form of recorded television or films was actually 1978. So she made a strong debut, did a lot of roles in a lot of different television shows, but Good Times was the last thing she seemed to do in 1978. And perhaps it's poetic that the person that is courting her is the star of Good Times. I don't know.
I like that.
Maybe he worked with her and just liked her and said, hey, come on,
Yeah,
onto
come
my
on.
show.
Was Good Times an ABC show?
Yes, Good Times was ABC, and a lot of times during its run, it was on right before The Love Boat on ABC on Saturday night. It was a Norman Lear show, so there's another iconic television producer of that era, much like Aaron Spelling.
We'll be right back with more Love Boat Exposed. Go to loveboatexposed.com to send us a message, leave a voicemail, or learn more about the show and our team. Who knows? You might just be invited to the captain's table.
It's a pleasure to welcome you aboard. I'm speaking for my entire crew.
All right, let me set this up. We're flipping over to an entirely different scenario. You mentioned Family Ties.
Mm-hmm.
The mom on Family Ties at the time, whose name was Meredith Baxter Burney. She's now known as Meredith Baxter. She ditched the Burney.
Yeah.
You know, she just got rid of him. He might have died. I don't know. She doesn't have his last name is the whole point. Strong actress who I think her most dramatic work was on the Betty Broderick story, which was acclaimed a television movie a while back. How would you describe her in this scene, in this episode?
She's the girl next door.
She's the girl next door.
She's the quintessential 1970s
Yes.
girl next door.
That she is. And she made a mistake, let's say. You could view it as a mistake or not. She did. That's the main point here. And she's married to like an up-and-coming politician, or they're getting married. But to make a few extra dollars, in her past, she was in a Playboy type of magazine where she was a centerfold. There, I'll just go ahead and say it.
Angel is a centerfold.
That's right. Jay Giles band.
Yeah.
Right. So she realizes her error, and she's shocked that these photos that she took have come out now, because the magazine's obviously trying to cash in on her politician husband-to-be. So this shocks her. She doesn't know which way to turn. She's on this cruise with her husband, and she finds out the magazine has just been released, and that there are, like, I think 3 or 4 issues of the magazine that are on the ship.
Yeah, that have been purchased. Because the cruise director, Julie, was able to buy all the other ones, but only 3 were actually purchased.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Out in the wild, 3 magazines left. I've pulled together the scenarios where she encounters the 3 magazines. We'll talk about what we've seen right after we see it. Here we go. For those just listening, there's a guy.
You took the best part!
She crumpled it and ran off with it.
Excuse me, could I have a light, please? I only gotta find one more. You can stop looking. Doc's got it. There's the ship's doctor? Yeah, that's why they call him Doc. I think I've got a cold.
Okay, so she thinks she has a cold. For those that are just listening on the podcast, we saw again a guy by a pool who's
In public, with
in
children,
public.
with parents,
Yes,
and kids.
Very public scene. He's just laying on a lounge chair with his big mop of 70s hair, and he's just opening this whole magazine.
Yep.
It's the centerfold. He's like, wow, drooling. And she catches this happening, and she just attacks that magazine, rips the centerfold right out. Cuts to the next scene, middle-aged, kind of balding dude. He's kind of hanging on the railing of the boat, just leaning over, just taking in Naked Magazine.
Yep, just taking it in on the ship. Maybe there's like a nice view with the open seas and just the centerfold right in front of you.
Which is kind of
Maybe that's what he
going for.
wanted.
So
Yeah.
now here's just one extra thing here. So she asks him for a light, and for those that didn't see the visual, he gives her his lighter because he smoked a cigarette, and she lights the bottom of the magazine. It just goes up in flames, and she splits. That one she didn't have to rip out. She burned it. Strange thing, besides the overall situation, he has the girl that he's looking at asking him for a lighter, and he's just so enthralled, this pervert, with this magazine, that he doesn't even know his angel is a centerfold and it's right next to him.
Right. No, he has no clue.
Right.
Open your eyes, boys. Open your eyes.
Yeah. So, cuts right to Julie. Julie gives that news. There's one more magazine. This scene, well, I mean, I'm going to reserve most of what I'm going to say, but it's a doozy.
It is a doozy.
And
comes at us from all different levels.
It's wrong on a lot of levels. So let's just jump right in.
May I help you?
I've got a terrible cold.
Do you run out of Kleenex? Come in, please. Want to hop up on the table? Boy, that's a nasty cork. Well, let's have a look at you. Funny, you don't seem to have a temperature. But you're kind of flushed. I don't think you have a cold at all. But you are suffering from acute embarrassment, possibly caused by overexposure.
You knew all along?
I never forget a face. What's wrong? Are you ashamed of that?
I'm mortified.
Look, I'm a doctor. I see an awful lot of bodies. Once I had a guy so fat, I needed 2 examination tables. As far as I'm concerned, you really have nothing to be ashamed of.
Thank you. But it's not what you think that concerns me.
Okay, well, hold on. That just so threw me that, okay, wow. Well, there you go. Your thoughts?
I thought so. Well, I mean, he obviously knew who she was before she walked in, so he's toying with her. He's playing with her. He's telling her that she doesn't really, she's just embarrassed. And then he's like, you know, white dude, oh, poor little girl. It's okay.
White dude?
Don't be embarrassed.
Okay, all right.
No, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, he's just coming at like an old, you know,
sure,
as the old, like older white man. It's just like, oh, little girl, it's
well,
okay.
I mean, it's not, you know, race exclusive.
No, of course not. But I'm just saying that my experience, you know.
Okay, in your experience.
It's just like, you know, it's just sort of like,
right.
It's just, it's a lot. Like he's toying with her. Like he already knows that she's not sick and he knows the reason she's there. He's already seen her naked.
And he uses that like he's a puppet master of sorts.
Like,
First of all,
I'm a doctor. It's okay. I can comment on your naked body.
yeah, and he comments favorably, imagine that.
Right. He probably wants to get in her pants anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And let me also say that she walks into his office, examining room, and there in the foreground of the shot is the open, dirty magazine. Like, he's just ready for patients, old women, young kids, and he's just got that magazine right there.
I mean, like, my doctor's offices had, like, highlights and, like, McCall's and, like, you know, Red Book. We didn't have, like, Playboy in our doctor's offices. Maybe that's, like, a West Coast doctor's office. I don't know.
I don't know.
On a cruise ship. Maybe all cruise ships, doctor's offices have it.
All laws go out the window. Maybe
All
they're
laws.
3 miles out into international waters.
That counts, yeah.
And you could just do whatever the hell you want. And I think he did. He wrapped it in good intention. Oh, I would be proud of what you got. Wink, wink. Here, hop up on the table. Here, let me
examine you
here. And let me also comment on your embarrassment as well. And kind of
shame you for that. Yeah.
Shame her and then also just kind of no need to be embarrassed. I like what you got.
Yeah, so lecherous and weird.
Yeah, I would say perhaps that's one of the more intense things that happens on this episode, but I'm going to jump over to the next scene, and we're back with Captain Merrill Steubing. At this point in the show, we've found out it's his ex-wife, and he's had enough, and he's going to do something about her insults and embarrassments, and, well, here we go.
Forget something, Merrill.
Yes, something I've been meaning to do for a week. You come too.
think you're doing?
Quiet.
Who do you think you are?
The captain. I haven't been acting like it, but I am the captain of this ship, and I am going to give you an order.
Oh, what?
An order. Go to your room.
You're going down the chute for that, Meryl.
Fine. Now look, I allowed you to make my life miserable, but I will not allow you to disrupt this cruise for the passengers, who, I should point out, paid to be on this ship.
You think you're talking?
I am not finished. And last, but by no means least, you will not treat my crew like a bunch of incompetent boobs. I have the best crew afloat.
You cannot talk to me like this.
Stacy, shut up.
Aubrey.
Mr. Skogstad, no matter what you say, I will not apologize. So whatever you have to say to me, sir, say it now. Go to your room. You're a great captain.
Well,
You're a great captain after you just grabbed my current wife and ripped her up from the table and dragged her and told her like a child, go to your room.
Dragged her?
2 men tell her to go to her room.
Well, I mean, I don't know that she wasn't asking for it.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that her behavior was not
that was a joke.
atrocious.
That was me
No,
kinda,
but but her behavior was atrocious,
not
but
meaning
still.
that, but
I
yes,
know, Rob,
it was
what you mean and what you don't mean.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you do, Charlotte.
Of course.
I mean, yep, we're coming from some of the same spots here. So, yeah, it literally dragged her, like you said, right across the dining room in public, shamed her. You got it right. She got kind of ganged up on there at the end. And there's a moral through the perspective of the 70s. I think the moral would be that it's a man's world, if we're looking at it through how the writers wrote this.
Oh, yeah, I totally 100%. And like the woman is second and she can be ordered around and she's property, right? I mean, they're basically treating her as property. Like the 2 men are talking about her over her and asking for permission for either one about what to do with this woman.
That's correct. And
the crew's even applauding it.
And there's and cruise director Julie is there, maybe leading the applause.
Mhm.
Actually, wow. Well, that was the last scene that we pulled.
The Love Boat. It's going to get so much better.
It does get so much better. Episode 2 goes very hardcore in regards to things that are wrong.
Yeah, it does.
And 1 trumps everything else.
Yeah.
And I will say this: the next episode stars John Ritter and classic again, another ABC show. John Ritter pulls off a doozy in the next episode, which we will take apart, and Captain Meryl Steubing in that episode
comes out guns blazing.
If you thought it was bad what he did in this episode, if you thought it was bad, I mean, maybe you thought it was fine, but if you thought it was bad, or if you're on the line, you will know what he does in the next episode. Episode 2, season 1 of The Love Boat is not only questionable behavior, I would say that he would be fired and probably put before some labor board.
Or a grand jury, actually, is what I was thinking. Let's just see what happens. Next episode.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Crime cruise, high seas,
and low morals.
Low morals.
They're real low next time.
We're sailing away, but we will be back with a new episode of Crime Cruise, Love Boat Exposed. Make sure to subscribe. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms. And connect with us at loveboatexposed.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, but I have duties on the bridge. Good evening.